Okay, so before we begin the video, I'd like to thank all the patrons who continue to support the channel. Thank you very much. Alright people, so how are you guys doing? So for this video, I really feel like not making this video anymore, you guys, because I've already done so many videos about DSS. But since a lot of you guys still don't understand how to apply pressure using DSS, I will now try to use a different approach. But before we begin this video, I'd like to make a quick disclaimer. This video is not going to teach us how to do DSS. I'd like to safely assume that you already have very good DSS execution and you can do transitions like while standing 4 into DSS, while standing 3 into DSS, 4-3 into DSS, junkyard into DSS, and many more. I'm not gonna mention them all. But if you don't, then I recommend that you watch my other videos first. The links are in the description below. Moreover, this video is gonna focus more on the strategy on how to use DSS rather than how to do DSS. Alright, so that's it. Sit back and enjoy the video. Okay guys, so just a quick recap on the DSS transition moves. First is we have kick transitions. Kick transitions are mostly plus on block, and they're even more plus on hit. This is why it is always lost turn every time you DSS out of these moves. So regardless of these moves getting blocked or these moves hitting, it is always lost turn, no matter what. And the best DSS transitions would have to be while standing 4 and while standing 3 because of the frames that they provide law to keep pressuring with DSS. And the next transitions are the punch transitions. Punch transitions are mostly plus on hit, but not on block. They are minus on block. That is why mental frame advantage plays a crucial role to keep the opponents from pressing buttons, so that they don't want to interrupt DSS. That is why moves like 1-2 and while standing 1 have extra hits to make people want to hesitate in pressing buttons, so that Law can freely do DSS without getting interrupted. Alright, hope you understand that concept. The goal of this guide is just to teach us how to apply pressure using DSS. But since Law's best transition into DSS is while standing 4, this guide will primarily be focused on while standing 4 into DSS. Alright, so why is while standing 4 the best DSS transition? Well, first is that while standing 4 is an 11 frame mid. All we need to do to make this uninterruptible is to have the slightest frame advantage of +2 or better. But the downside to this is that this can only be done from a fully crouched position because it is a while standing move. And the second reason, is that while standing 4 is only a single hit. With this being only a single hit, it means that there's nothing much that the opponent can do to react to this after they block it or get hit by it. Unlike other moves like 4-3 and junkyard, the opponent has other options to prevent DSS. Like for example, they can duck the second hit of 4-3, or they can parry the second hit of junkyard. And the third reason why while standing 4 is good is that while standing 4 into DSS has very good hit and block frames. Given that you're able to properly do the DSS transition, this move puts Law at +18 on hit and +7 on block. And what's even better is that on counter hit, it also gives +18, but they're unable to block, which means that you're free to hit them within 18 frames. And that's the reason why while standing 4 into DSS 3+4-4 is a legit combo anytime the while standing 4 counter hits. So what are the moves that best set up a while standing 4? Well, first we have forward 1+2, but we need to hold down after. so that Law recovers in crouch. No doubt, this move is the best one to set up a while standing 4 because it puts Law at +3 to make a while standing 4 uninterruptible for a nice counter hit setup. And it also forces them into crouch, plus they also can't backdash or sidestep away. But extra caution when fighting Lily and Alyssa because they can safely step away from a while standing 4 follow-up because of their weird perk boxes. They're too slim, so they can sidestep away. And the next move is down 1. Like a forward 1+2, this also puts Law at plus, but slightly less at +2. But that is still enough to make a while standing 4 uninterruptible. They can only backdash away from a while standing 4 if you land this at dip range, so better keep that in mind. And the next move to set up a while standing 4 is a backturn down 3, the main low from a backturn stance. A while standing 4 could also be done after this move, but that's much better done at the wall. In open ground, you may have to be careful of the while standing 4 getting backdashed. And the next move to set up a while standing 4 is a slide feint. We all know about a while standing 2 being used as a mid mix-up to a slide, but because a certain number of characters can punish a while standing 2 very hard, like for example Mishima's can punish it with an electric, we can use a while standing 4 at times we don't want to commit to a while standing 2. Whether while standing 4 hits or gets blocked, it doesn't matter since Law still has the advantage on both situations. So the key in properly applying pressure is to first learn how your opponent reacts to every move that you do. But since this is a DSS pressuring guide, we're more concerned on how they respond to a DSS transition. So let us assume the least possible frame advantage that we can get, and that is when the DSS transition move gets blocked. So to simplify things, I group the opponent's response into 4 categories. First is when they want to press buttons. This is when the opponent chooses to challenge DSS by doing moves of their own. This option can be beaten with the fastest moves from DSS. The best rewards out of DSS are mostly from when the opponent presses buttons. Next is when they want to stand block or backdash. This is when the opponent chooses to respect DSS and not do a move. Because the opponent remains standing, they're vulnerable to lows and throws. Next is when they want to crouch block. This is when the opponent chooses to duck to avoid the high DSS moves. With most of the good moves from DSS being high, it is a good idea for the opponent to crouch every once in a while, but they leave themselves open to mids. Next is when they want to sidestep or sidewalk. This is when the opponent chooses to move laterally against DSS. This option can be beaten out with tracking moves and realignment. Sidewalking right can pretty much destroy most of the DSS options. Note that I haven't included options like for example command parries and evasive moves yet, because I want to simplify this guide as much as possible, but we will get into those later. Okay, so here are the best DSS options to deal with the non-respectful button pressers. So, let us first start with the Uninterruptibles. These are the fastest moves that could ever be done out of DSS. These moves are guaranteed to outspeed any attack that your opponent might throw out because of the frame advantage gained from transitioning into DSS. But note that because most of these moves are highs, the opponent can still try to go under them with high crushes. Okay, so for the first option that we have DSS 4-2. This is the fastest move that we could ever do out of DSS, so it's always guaranteed to hit your opponent if they press any buttons. On hit, this is +6, so it then makes a down 4-2 follow-up become uninterruptible. Also, the extension of this move, which is DSS 4-2 back 2, could be used to boost the damage, but that will put Law facing backwards to deliver a backturn mix-up instead. But more importantly, is that this is the move that we could use to check their reactions to DSS. Are they stand blocking? Are they ducking? Or are they pressing buttons? Scouting their reactions is very crucial for us to know which move from DSS we should do next. And don't forget that this move is also 0 on block, so it leaves us with many different options. For example, we could fish for counter hits with 1, 2, 3 and Magic 4. And remember that we could also try to step because we're at 0 frames. And also don't forget the extensions DSS 4222 and DSS 422 1+2. Next move is DSS 1. This move is the next fastest move after DSS 42. If you hit them with this move, you can either do the high extension DSS 1-4 or the mid extension DSS 1-4-1. The high extension does more damage, but the mid extension could be delayed and it would still hit. But if you get this move blocked, the extensions DSS 1-4 and DSS 1-4-1 could actually be delayed or done immediately. That is why only doing the initial hit can often scare them into not pressing any buttons, because they don't know if you're gonna do the second hit or not. DSS 2. This move is the best uninterruptible move in my opinion. Just don't get it ducked, because on counter hit, it is a big counter hit launcher. On block, this is -4, but the frame advantage is nullified by the huge pushback it gives. This provides a good opportunity to look out for any potential whiffs. DSS 42, DSS 1, and DSS 2 are all highs, but their timings are totally different. DSS 42 would have to be ducked and punished early without confirming, while DSS 1 and DSS 2 would have to be ducked and punished late. If DSS 42 is punished late, then it's likely that the punisher will just get blocked. And if DSS 1 and DSS 2 are punished too early, then the opponent will just get caught on their way up because DSS 1 and DSS 2 land later than DSS 42. Next is DSS 3+4-4. This move is the fastest mid out of DSS, which is also a launcher. Obviously, you wouldn't want to just throw this out right away because they can just easily duck the last hit. And not only that, the last hit is also -13 on block. So only use this move if you're getting ducked or getting high crushed. DSS 2+4. The DSS throw. Having a startup speed of 12 frames, this throw also becomes uninterruptible. But remember that they can still break this by pressing 2 or completely avoid it with a backdash. Since the kick moves are already plus on block, it would make sense to use uninterruptibles over the power crushes. Why risk taking damage with power crushes when we can just do uninterruptibles instead? But power crushes are more useful when law isn't plus during DSS, particularly after punch moves, which are mostly minus on block. But note that if they do moves that recover fast enough, like jabs for example, they may still be able to block or duck the power crush in time, so keep that in mind. So for power crushes, we have DSS 1+2. The high power crush, which can only be done out of DSS. Without DSS, this move can be done as down 1+2, 1+2. On block, this still pushes them back far enough for us to hunt for potential whiffs. Next power crush is DSS 43, the Dragon Cannon. Lost mid while bouncing power crush. Without DSS, the command is forward 3, but be careful not to abuse this move too much because this is launch punishable by most characters. When using while standing 4, sometimes not always going into DSS is a good idea. Remember that while standing 4 alone is -4 on block with a bit of pushback. So it then allows Law to move after with only that light of a frame disadvantage. However, this doesn't apply to the other entry moves like Junkyard and 4-3 because their frames are worse than while standing 4 without DSS. First option is we could do a sidestep or a sidewalk. As long as the opponent is doing linear moves, you can force them to whiff by doing lateral movement. Remember that a sidestep allows us to punish earlier than we can with a sidewalk. Next option is that we can backdash. The goal of a backdash is the same as a lateral movement, is to make the opponent whiff. But a backdash is only useful in making short moves whiff, which means that farther reaching moves will have to be blocked or parried. Alright, so we now go to Law's best options against stand blockers who have respect for DSS. Sadly, Law doesn't have any lows from DSS that force a knockdown, so the next best thing would be to get frame advantage instead. But I think this is better since a knockdown will only reset the momentum. Being at a constant frame advantage allows Law to keep his momentum to keep applying pressure. However, the following moves that are used to gain frame advantage all have a common weakness. They're all interruptible and also steppable. So for the first move, we have DSS 4. This is the low from DSS, and this puts Law at +5, but it pushes the opponent too far to even follow up with any good pokes. But at the wall, that pushback is nullified. And next is we have LegendKicker, DSS forward 4. This move is the one that I recommend against people who just respect DSS, because on block, this forces a mix-up by being at +7 on their face. And being at +7 makes a down forward 2 and a down forward 3 become uninterruptible. Next move we have Poison Arrow done from DSS, DSS forward 2 at ~1. In open ground, this move will not do you much besides push the opponent back, but the pushback could then be used to hunt for potential whiffs. At the wall is where this move really shines, because this is +5 on block and gives a wall splat on hit. And after this gets blocked, good follow-ups are down forward 2 and back forward 3 because they're uninterruptible at +5. And don't forget that we could also use throws to beat stand block. From DSS we have DSS 2+4. Throws also work well against people who stand block, so it makes sense to use the throw out of DSS. But remember that this can be broken by pressing 2 and can completely be avoided with a backdash. Next is when we want to deal with the crouchers. Of course, we want to use our mids. And first we have the fast but punishable on block mids. But these also happen to be the fastest mids that we can do for DSS. But the only downside to these being fast is that they're unsafe. First move we have DSS 3+4-4. We have already talked about this. Only use this when you think that they're gonna duck or do a high crush. Because remember that this is very risky because they can duck the last hit and it's also -13 if they just block it. The move done without its extension, DSS 3+4, is also good for wall splatting people who just duck at the wall. Being at -12, it's safer than the next mid option, DSS forward 1. Next is DSS forward 1. This is the next fastest mid after DSS 3+4. Again, this is -14, but it has pushback, so not every character can punish this. Next, we have the Power Crush mid, DSS forward 3. Now, I don't really recommend this to catch duckers because it's launch punishable. But if you have the read and you would want to go for the wall bounce, then go for it. Next, we have the slow but safe on block. The following moves are good on block, but they're also slow enough that they're weak to the opponent pressing buttons because they can get interrupted. That is why it's important to condition them into not pressing buttons first. So for the first move, we have Poison Arrow, done from DSS, DSS forward 2 at ~1. I would use this mid whenever they're more inclined to not press any buttons. This is much better on block than DSS forward 1, being at +5 and wall splats at the same time. It's very good to use at the wall, but the only downside is that they can interrupt this. Next, we have DSS forward 3+4, which is forward 3+4 done from DSS. This move is the most reliable low crush that could be done out of DSS. On normal hit, it gives +7 frame advantage and it also forces them to crouch. This also can be used to crush thick jabs and counter hit slow lows like snake edges. But this move is low enough so you will get floated if they press any buttons. And now, because most of the really good DSS options are very prone to sidesteps, here are the moves to deal with the sidesteppers. First, we have the homing DSS 3. This is the only homing move out of DSS, and on block it's only -3 and has very good pushback. A very good move to bait out whiffs. But the downside is that it can be interrupted. This is one of the moves that I want them to buff by just giving it just a little more speed to make it uninterruptible. Now we have tracking to the left. We have DSS forward 2. Again, this is the fastest move out of DSS because this is the poke to scout how they react to DSS. This can be used to check people who step DSS to lost left side, which is DSS's known weak side. DSS forward 4, a legend kick done from either a while standing 4 or 4-3. This is gonna track any step towards lost left side as long as you make the legend kick come out early enough. Well, to be honest, I almost forgot about this move's tracking property, but because this is slow, this is prone to getting jab floated. And next, you guessed it, tracking to the right. We have DSS forward 1. This is the only move from DSS which tracks to lost right side. The only benefit of DSS forward 1 compared to other tracking moves is that it's the only mid that has some form of tracking, but it only tracks to the right. Now we go to realignment, and to realign we can delay into any move. This is another property in Tekken that a lot of beginners and intermediate players are not familiar with. Delaying a move will allow your character to realign with the opponent. Sidestepping doesn't always guarantee that an attack can be avoided. The sidestep also has to be timed with the attack. Therefore, an early sidestep can still be tracked because the character realigns during a delay. However, the opponent can still attempt to sidestep and block in time. With DSS, you can delay the move in 2 ways. One way is to let the shimmy animation play out for a little longer before doing the attack. The other way is to use the Dragon Fake Step or DFS's animation to realign. Because Slaw also steps back while in DFS, this can also make short attacks from your opponent whiff. Now that we have already covered how to deal with the 4 most basic responses that the opponent can do, you're now left with the moves that can screw us over if we're not careful. When dealing with some matchups, they have these options that we could say that steals turns, despite it being lost turn to attack while in DSS. This is why we have to play more cautious against them. First are the low crushes. Hop kicks or any other jumping attack in general are not very good against DSS because DSS only has few low options. It is much better if they just sidewalk instead. So we need not worry about these too much because most highs from DSS will already cover low crushes. Next are high crushes. Since the good uninterruptibles from DSS are highs, Law can get wrecked if the opponent just pulls out a high crush out of nowhere. But most of these moves can be treated to be in a crouching state, so we can still use mids against them. Next are power crushes. These moves can be a threat to DSS, but when Law has the advantage, most power crushes can still be interrupted with DSS forward 2, because the armor property of power crushes is going to take a few frames to activate. Also, don't forget that power crushes are weak to lows and throws. Next are parries and reversals. If you watch my parry guide video, I mentioned there that parries are weak to lows and throws, so we can use DSS 4 and DSS 2+4. Also, don't forget that parries are weak to delays. With delays, you can manually delay a move to punish a parry or simply do a move with a long startup like LegendKicker, for example. Against some matchups like Asuka, for example, their reversals can be chicken. Again, if you don't know what a chicken is a reversal to a reversal. Chickens can easily be buffered out of DSS moves. Now, I'm not going to teach you how to do that here because that's a completely different topic, but the reward for chickens isn't that great, but it provides you that extra assurance that your move will not get reversed. Alright, so now we learn how to deal with evasive moves. And here is when things can really get out of hand. For example, when fighting characters like Paul can do either forward 1+4, a move that has a built-in sidestep, and back forward 1, which is his backswing blow. Backswing blows can often be beaten with a far-reaching move. For example, Law can do DSS 4 to beat a backswing blow. And moves that have built-in sidesteps can still be followed with tracking moves. But despite all these options, there is a safer alternative to beat all of these. Just do nothing. And what I mean by that is to simply not go into DSS and just bait out whatever move that they want to throw out. The pushback and recovery after while standing 4, for example, it still allows Law to either backdash or sidestep out of the way of the incoming move. And remember that this option does not only cover evasive moves, but also even power crushes and parries could be baited out, and you don't always have to go into DSS. As long as you have a read on what move that they want to do, you can always use movement to counter those. Alright, so now we go to the other best DSS transition, which is while standing 3. This one is like the big brother of while standing 4, and from what I can say, while standing 3 and while standing 4 complement each other very well. It's like they cover each other's weaknesses. By default, while standing 3 automatically transitions into Dragon Fake Step. So all that's left for us to do to go into DSS is to just press forward and nothing more. Okay, so how do while standing 3 and while standing 4 complement each other? For example, while standing 3 is a high and while standing 4 is a mid. Or in other words, you can duck a while standing 3, but you can never duck a while standing 4. And at the same time, while standing 3 is slow at 16 frames and while standing 4 is fast at 11 frames. So as you can see, while standing 3 being a slower move is more likely to get interrupted. And while standing 4 being a faster move means that it's less likely to get interrupted. And remember that all Law needs is to be at least +2 to make a while standing 4 become uninterruptible. Okay, so right now it looks like while standing 4 is a better move than while standing 3 in every way. But if you think that, then that's where you're wrong, because where while standing 3 really shines is in the frame advantage department. So just a quick recap, let's take a look at the frame advantage while standing 4. When while standing 4 is transitioned into DSS, on block it's +7, and on hit it's +18, but they can still block any move that you follow up after. And on counter hit, it's +18 and you get free stuff within 18 frames. While standing 3's frames when transitioned into DSS is +17 on block, but they can still block. And it's both +19 on both hit and counter hit. Free stuff guaranteed. As you can see, all these plus frames are very massive on block. Being at +17 means that they cannot do most options, like when they block a while standing 4. For example, a move as low as DSS 4 cannot be interrupted, nor it can be stepped. DSS 2 becomes very good because they get launched if they press buttons. Also, any move that is faster than 19 frames becomes guaranteed if this hits. For example, a while standing 3 followed by a 3+4/4 is guaranteed if the while standing 3 hits. Okay, so enough of that, let's get back to while standing 3 complementing while standing 4. We all understand that while standing 4 is good. It's fast enough that it can counter hit a lot of stuff, and it's also mid that can hit duckers. So the way that they can avoid getting hit by a while standing 4 is to stand block. and also avoid pressing buttons. And once they do that, that is when a while standing 3 becomes very good to use. So if you find that your while standing 4 is getting blocked a lot, remember that you have while standing 3 because it's one of Law's best pressuring tools. And I personally like using this whenever I don't feel like doing a slide. And yes, a slide is also a very good option when a while standing 4 is getting blocked a lot. Alright guys, so that's it for this video. Got nothing else left to say. And oh yes, I made a written version of this guide if you want to check it out. It's in my Patreon page. And what else? I guess like, comment, and subscribe. And thanks for watching the video. I'm out. See you next time. Thanks.